And one.
Let me know if I need to tell a joke again. I got a bunch of dad jokes lined up.
Hey, welcome back to Trading Options Network. We have Nate Lamar today, and apparently he has some dad jokes lined up today. We are super excited to have him. Nate, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, man? What do you do? Where are you from? What got you into the financial industry? How long you've been doing it?
Yeah. Here, Southern California, man. Sunny Southern California out here, loving
Sunny
life.
SoCal.
Yeah, it's great. It's 6 a.m. and it's already, I don't know, about to be 70 degrees, beautiful day. Um,
Can't beat
uh,
that.
no, not at all. So I got into the financial services space kind of on accident. I had a buddy I went to high school with, kind of just introduced me to this industry, came over to my house, shared some different concepts with me as far as investing money for retirement, having insurance. I never thought about any of that stuff in my life. That's how I kind of got into this space. He told me the money he was making kind of just as a side hustle. So
Right on,
that's
man.
yeah, and just fell in love with it. I just fell in love with the concept of investing money, learned things, simple, basic concepts that just the average person doesn't know.
No
And I
kidding.
did, yeah, it blew me away how it wasn't taught to more people much sooner in life.
Huh, you'll have to tell me a little bit more about that. What exactly is it you specialize in, man? Like tell everyone what exactly you specialize in.
So specifically setting up retirement accounts, I do a lot of 401ks for companies or meet with individuals instead of Roth IRAs. Probably one of the things I do the most is setting up a systematic monthly investment for people in their, 20s, 30s. That's our target market. If I can meet with somebody in their 20s and 30s and set them up with an IRA, that's really going to have the biggest impact in their income in retirement by the time they're in their 50s and 60s.
Sure. You mentioned Roth IRA. Do you prefer Roth IRAs versus your traditional IRAs?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody qualifies for one, then for sure that's probably going to be the most advantageous thing
Yeah.
for them in retirement because how how much you think people like paying taxes?
Right. Yeah, dude. I remember learning about Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks too. But the first time I heard about them, I was just blown away, man. So, they are absolutely, in my opinion, one of the greatest financial things out there in the market today. What you mentioned your target market are, couples that are in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah, couples are individuals, really. It's probably about 50-50 now. If I can
Okay.
meet with couples, obviously there's going to be more money in the household to work with,
Sure.
and there's more potential to accumulate a lot more money for people. But I don't. It's just a different generation that we're living in.
That,
It's
that's
not
that's a
like
good
how
point,
the
man.
generation our parents grew up in, where they were married by the time they were 18, 19 years old and stayed
Right,
together
right.
forever. It's a different generation now. So, I would love to meet with more couples than single individuals, but I do, even a single individual is going to be just as serious about reaching their retirement goals as, married
Sure.
couples. But it's really the age that I'm looking for. When I sit down with somebody and they're already in their 50s, which unfortunately, that's when a lot of people for the first time start thinking about retirement and like, hey man, I've been working for the last 20, 30 years and you get your 401k statement or not. Um, and you start thinking about these things like, hey, well, I don't want to do this forever until I die. Like this is what I have to do until I die, unless you start
Hmm.
making some changes. But it's just there's not enough time to have money compound. I mean, there is time. It's never too late, but there's a significant difference starting in your 20s and 30s than when you're starting in your 40s and 50s. There's a big difference. So, especially like we were talking about the Roth IRA for your listeners. I don't know what your target audience is, but I know we mentioned taxes. So, you and I speak that same language and know what a Roth IRA is. So, when somebody's systematically saving money over a long period of time, when you're in your 20s and 30s, the amount of interest you earn on the money that you put into that account versus the principal you put in,
Right.
there's remarkable difference, right? It's
Huh.
it's significantly more interest earned, and that's the tax-free part because you're funding that Roth IRA with after-tax dollars. Everything that grows inside there is all tax-free. So you
Right.
have a tax-free withdrawal for the rest of your life. It makes a big difference.
That's awesome. I was actually going to ask you to speak on, how important it is to start earlier rather than later. I mean, you nailed it, man. I mean, people that are starting in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, they're going to miss out on so much. But at the same time, those individuals who are in their 20s and 30s, it's very, very hard to reach them from my experience because they're not thinking about that retirement yet. You almost have to go in there and I'm not going to say you have to demand that they start it, but you almost kind of do in a way because they're not going to just go out and say, I'm 25 years old. I need to really start planning for my retirement, you know? So,
Right.
I
Right.
get
So
it,
that's
man.
why it's super important to get referrals. So when I do finally sit down with somebody that's in the, 22 to 25 years old, that's the market you're talking about right there. They haven't thought a second about retirement yet.
Right. But,
Right.
at the same time, you mentioned referrals. Hey, my mom said I had to, or my dad said I had to sit down with you and I had to do what you said. So,
Yeah.
that's going to go a little bit further than just some random guy like yourself coming in and say, hey, have you thought about retirement yet?
Yeah. So, and then once I actually sit down with them, they're blown away. I mean, absolutely. It takes no thought at all for them to say, okay, well, how do I move forward? How do I set this up? It takes 10, 15 minutes to set something like that up.
Sure, sure.
And I show them, okay, if $100 a month, okay, 25 years old, $100 a month, here's what that will look like in 5 years. And it's really close to nothing, right? You can't even
Right.
buy a used car, right? And you've put in more money than the interest you've earned at that point. Okay, now look at that same $100 over 10 years. All right, now what you've put in and the interest, this kind of, neck and neck. Okay, now let's look at 15 year, and I do it progressively in 5 year
Increments?
increments.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think what happens a lot of times is even when I do sit down with people, I've been here for over a decade now, and I've set up hundreds and hundreds of these accounts, and every once in a while, I'll log in and someone's account is completely depleted to zero. And that's because they looked up 5, 6 years later and they weren't a millionaire yet. So, an opportunity came where they could, buy a car and they go on a vacation and they pull all that money out. And so I think a big difference when I show them incrementally, like, hey, in the first 5, 10, 15 years, it's really not a whole lot, but over time,
Yeah.
by 59 and a half, it's a big difference. So it's definitely not, I did a little bit of looking into just different, day traders and different investment vehicles. So this is definitely the long and steady way to
Right.
accumulate wealth, right? This is nothing that you're gonna, become an overnight success and you start to own YouTube or podcast because you just had this remarkable success in a short period of time. It's really not what I specialize in
Yeah.
when it comes to people.
Well, I'll be honest with you, as a day trader, swing trader, long term trader, the reality is, no one's really going to become an overnight success. If you do, you're absolutely 100% lucky. If you are a day trader and you hit a home run, one day, hey, it's luck. I guarantee you, so every single day trader out there who has experienced one of those home runs has probably experienced 10 disasters for every one home run. So we hear all about those success stories as it goes with anything. We hear about all these success stories, but the reality is there's so many failures and so many, I don't even like to use the word failure, but so many disaster stories that we don't hear about. And unfortunately, it's the success stories that's what draws people in and it causes them to just get their butts kicked. So the slow and steady pace, being the hare, being the tortoise, and the whole tortoise and the hare analogy is almost a surefire way to eventually reach your goals. Yeah, it's slow and steady, but you are going to get there. Now, just out of curiosity, what is it exactly that you enjoy the most about what you do? I mean, obviously, you're very, very passionate about what you do, but what is it that you actually enjoy the most? Like, what gets you out of bed, and makes you want to do this?
So it's two things. I think I'm motivated by just the impact that we have whenever we do sit down with somebody that's that's a huge motivator.
Yeah.
But just also the financial freedom for my family.
Okay.
It's both, right? I don't think I'd be as passionate having one without the other. I just
Sure.
wouldn't be, right? Because if I was making this same impact in my community without the potential to significantly, improve my family's lifestyle, right? And have generational wealth created for my kids. I have three boys, and it's definitely one of those things where when I am meeting with my clients, I do talk a lot about generational wealth, right? And I just don't believe every generation should be starting over from scratch. I really don't. And not that I want to hand my kids anything, I want them to have
Sure.
responsibility and learn work ethic, things of that nature. But
Sure.
I really don't think they should be starting from scratch. I don't. So I know in the financial services space, you could build a book of business. There's just things you could do that you couldn't do at a typical 9 to 5 job,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
So
Or I can go ahead.
yeah, no, I have a question for you. So earlier you mentioned, you had a guy that came over to your house. Gosh, I mean, you're about my age, and I know you started almost 15 years ago. So you were yourself in your mid 20s then, pretty much. Um, he
27.
27. You said, man, we're getting old, man.
I'm at
But
42.
yeah, yeah, I'll
2
be
years
there.
old.
I'll be there soon, man. I'm right behind you, right behind you. Oh man. All right, so. I did have a question though. You mentioned, some individual came over to your house, and he was talking about the money that he was making. Is that what ultimately drew you in? Was the money he was making, and then you kind of just learned everything else and created a passion out of that?
Yeah, so his initial approach wasn't to get me into the financial services industry. It wasn't. So speaking about age, okay, uh, if I didn't tell you how old I was, you would know right now. He reached out to me on a MySpace post that I posted. I had my youngest
That's
son was just
hilarious.
born, Jaden. He was just born. I posted a picture of him on my MySpace, and he reached out to me about setting up a life insurance policy.
Okay.
I said, hey, congratulations on the new kid. Who's helping with your life insurance? Basically, is how that went. And I'm 27, and the last time I talked to this guy, I was in high school. So I was like 18 years old ish, right around there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was like, oh, yeah, I know this guy. Like, and I had a policy with New York Life. Told, oh, yeah, dude, I'm squared away. And I was not in the market, but had just gotten that policy because right around this time is when we were going through the '08 mortgage crisis thing.
Sure.
So the employer that I worked for, instead of giving everybody a pay cut almost all of our benefits, right? So I didn't have any more, like there was no more 401k
Hmm.
matching, no benefits. So I didn't have any life insurance anymore. They stopped it. And I didn't care. Like I never even thought about it. It was my boss that was asking me like, hey, who are you gonna go with your life insurance? Well, I don't want life insurance. If they're not paying for it, I'm not getting it. Like, what do I need that for?
Right.
And and in a very simple way, because he wasn't a finance guy, I was a GM for a warehouse. Like we're just regular warehouse guys. He goes, no, dude, like if something happens to your crazy ass, you have two kids, a brand new kid, like, because like I like skydiving, bungee jumping, I ride motorcycles, I do all that kind of stuff. So, I was really good friends with my boss. So it was more out of concern, like, hey, fool, if something happens to you, I'm not participating in your car washes or anything like that. Like, go get some life insurance. So that's why I got a New York life insurance policy. I was like, all right, well, that makes sense. Who do you have? And he had New York Life. It's all right, cool. I guess I'll go get some New York life insurance.
Yeah, right,
So
right.
a buddy reached out to me. I said, oh yeah, dude, I got a policy already. And he said, oh, if you're open to saving money, I might be able to give you more coverage, reduce your premium. I was like, yeah, dude, I'm all about saving money. Let's hear it. So anyway, so he came over, and so that was the approach that he took. So when he met with me, and God, the way God works is crazy, crazy because had I not had that New York life insurance policy first, I wouldn't understand the difference that Mark, that was my buddy's name, I wouldn't have understand the significant impact that he was going to make,
Hmm.
right? So if I didn't have anything and I just met with Mark and got that insurance policy and he talks to me about a Roth IRA, I'd be like, oh, cool, good, this is a good deal. But because I had the New York life insurance policy, I don't know if I can say all that on here. Since I had the other
Yeah,
insurance,
it's all good.
the other insurance, and he showed me, I had a certain policy where my coverage was 250,000, and I was paying a little over 200 bucks a month for that.
Hmm.
And when I met with my buddy, he showed me a different type of policy where I had, close to 600,000, and I was paying 52 bucks,
Oh, geez, it's a
right? So
no-brainer.
and they put the difference into a Roth IRA. And again, it just made sense. Like I'm a numbers guy. The numbers just made sense. If I
Yeah,
pass
yeah.
away too soon, my family gets a much bigger death benefit. If I live a long time, I'm going to accumulate way more money in my Roth IRA than I was inside of this insurance policy. Type of policy that he gave me expires at a certain point, but at that point, I'm going to have significantly more in a Roth IRA than my death benefit and the savings that would have accumulated in that old
Huh.
policy. I have more actual cash without the premium,
So if
right? So,
somebody, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. If somebody wanted to actually talk to you about this themselves, what would they have to do?
reach out to me. I don't know how you get all your handles on here. I mean, I have Instagram. The last time, this is again, I'm 42, so I have Instagram. But if you go on my page, the last thing posted on there was from 2021. Yeah, pretty active on the stories. My wife showed me how to work that thing. I'll snap a picture of what I'm doing every once in a while and post that.
Yeah,
But I am active there as far as receiving messages. So on there, my direct contact information.
I'll
Yeah,
make sure I get
that's
all that posted, man, for you, so that if people do want to reach out to you and get everything taken care of, man, they absolutely can. Let me ask you something really quick. Because I'm always curious. Can you tell me about a time you had failed and what you did to overcome that?
um a time when I failed. So
Like
I mean, I guess
in your line of work, I mean, like, you know, have you ever met an individual where they didn't want to listen to you, and I know that happens all the time, so I'm sure you have some stories, but you met somebody and then unfortunately, the unthinkable had happened or something, or they did kind of, get a little bit older and now they're too far along and they have no opportunity to retire, mentioned starting early.
yeah, yeah. So that happens often, right? So all I can do is let people know, just educate people on the advantages. And I think as far as failing me personally is in the beginning, I didn't put a whole lot of time, energy, or effort into getting really, really good at communicating what it is that I do.
Okay.
I understood it, and I just expected other people to understand the way I understood. And that's not always the case. So,
Yeah.
learning how to meet people where they're at and communicate value, remarkable difference, right? So when I sit down with somebody, a construction worker versus, I don't know, a stay-at-home mom, it's a very different conversation, very different
Sure.
conversation, right? So I think just learning how to be relatable, I didn't do a good job of that in the beginning at all, to where now, just having a little bit more empathy, understanding where people are at, financially, sometimes because, we can start accounts, a Roth IRA
Yeah, yeah.
at as low as $25.
Huh.
Well, if somebody doesn't have 25 bucks to start that account, they're not just going to tell you because nobody wants to say like, "Hey, that sounds great, but I don't got 25 bucks every month to start investing," right? So there are all these different objections, right? So learning how to really understand people, body language, and offer them solutions for any challenge that they might have. Like, okay, well, let's rearrange some of your finances.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How important is it to have Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime? Or, let's get rid of one. You might need one of them, but not all of them,
Right,
right?
right. Yeah,
So
priorities, man.
so just going through a budget, getting really crystal clear on where's all the money going, right? Because most people have more money available than they think.
Yeah.
And if it's important to them, if really, putting their family in a much better situation in the future is really, really important to them, they might let Netflix go.
Maybe, maybe. I mean, all these Adam Sandler movies that have been coming out on Netflix, kind of want to watch them. So, This is what I kind of want to do to wrap things up, man. I mean, everything you said is just freaking awesome. But there are a few things I just kind of want almost to do like a rapid fire type questions and just kind of get an idea of, off the top of your head right away, before you even really have a time to think. What is your take on the current market?
Current market. Well, current market for my industry right now, my client base is it's good. It's really good. So, I'm doing a lot of annual reviews right now.
Okay.
And, so as far as the people I'm meeting with, the average account is up 25-35%. So right now, all my clients love me.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely love having a conversation. I pull up their accounts and I show them, how it's been performing year over year.
yeah.
And like I said, on average, it's up 25-35%. Now, back in 2022, I couldn't say that, right? I was
Right.
I was kind of dodging phone calls because the market was not great. Which kind of goes along with why, having a long-term strategy and a long-term outlook is so important. But current market for what I'm doing right now, it's great. I'm loving having all these annual reviews and conversations with our clients.
All right. Last two questions. What's your best guess on where the market's going to be in a month from now?
Man, that's not a fair question. A month from now, so
All right.
you know,
We'll skip that
it's
one. We'll skip that
so
one. How about this one? This will be easier for you. If you had $10,000 to invest in one place right now, where would you put it?
Oh, so I love that question because that's a good amount of money, but not like a whole.
Fuck.